Hello everyone, this is Comrade Sputnikov speaking, and this is Ushanka Show, where everyone can learn something new about life in the Soviet Union. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи! В эфире программа Ushanka Show. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Angela Davis, or as we used to say in the Soviet Union, Angela Davis, and how huge she was in the USSR. And looking at Ushanka Show audience, we got 96% male viewership, only 4% female viewership, and looks like about 60% of my viewers were born before 1980. Let's quickly review who was Angela Davis. Thanks to ChatGPT, we have this nice visual presentation. Angela Davis was born in 1944 in Birmingham, Alabama, in segregated South, and she was a member of the Communist Party of the United States as well as ally of Black Panthers. She was fired from UCLA due to her political beliefs. In 1970, she was accused, and it says here wrongly accused in a courthouse for killing FBI agent, and she was on the list of FBI's most wanted. She was acquitted in 1972 and became an international symbol of resistance. So this is what we're going to talk about it, becoming an international symbol of resistance. And here's her wanted by the FBI poster. She was wanted for interstate flight, murder, kidnapping. Angela Yvonne Davis. So this is from 1970. And when I was searching for photos for this presentation, I discovered this original 1970 Angela Davis FBI wanted poster is available on eBay for $3,000. So let's quickly review what happened. So Angela Davis was arrested on October 13, 1970 in New York City by FBI. And she was charged with shootout at the Martin County Courthouse, California on August 7, 1970. The gunman used weapons that were registered to Davis, and under California law, she could be charged as if she were present at the scene. So after the warrant was issued, she went underground, was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives in August of 1970. She was found at Howard Johnson Motor Lodge in New York City, was unarmed and offered no resistance. Her arrest became front-page news around the world, especially in the Soviet Union and its socialist allies. And the Soviet government decided to use Angela Davis' arrest and imprisonment that followed for the giant, and I mean giant, propaganda push to free Angela Davis. So that was the main slogan, freedom to Angela Davis, Svobodu Angele Davis. And it was huge. All those events occurred in 1970, 1971, 1972, and I was born in 1971, so of course I don't remember anything, but the impact of this government freedom to Angela Davis propaganda push was so huge that it echoed all the way to 80s and even 90s. And I don't think Soviet leadership planned for that, but their propaganda push in the newspapers, TV, and radio did this unusual side effect. So Angela Davis became this cultural phenomena for Soviet people. They saw something different, something new and exciting. So Angela Davis' name, her hairstyle, her clothing, everything just became so popular and had a huge effect on the Soviet people generally. And here's the example of a Soviet newspaper article titled Svobodu A. Davis, freedom to A. Davis. So they didn't even say Angela Davis, just A. Davis. So that's from November 20th from TASS from New York about mass campaign to free American communist Angela Davis, which was arrested for fabricated case for participating in killing. And they're talking about different meetings in Philadelphia, in San Francisco. There are people sending letter to Governor of New York, State of New York, Rockefeller, a letter of his protest about handling Davis to California. So I guess she was arrested in New York, and they demanded we need to stop racism, freedom to Angela Davis, hands off Angela, and so on. This is about meeting in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So this is we had a lot of these articles in the Soviet newspapers in 1970 and 1971. Here's another example. This is actually a short poem by Ekaterina Sheveleva called Angela Davis. and it's based on the news from American newspapers that philosophy professor, a young Negro, Angela Davis, was arrested in New York. And I'll read it in Russian, but just it's a protest. Angela, you're daughter of America, you're a symbol of bravery, you're a symbol of youth, you are pushing for Marxism, blah, blah, blah. But let me try to read it how we were taught to read poems in the Soviet schools. Анджела Дэвис, дочь Америки, ум, ваше преступление главное. Не терпят власти в современнике, сияние мысли многогранное. Рокфеллеры не любят критики, полиция сжимает челюсти, но имя ваше вторят митинги. Анджела Дэвис – символ смелости. В аудиториях брожение, отпор душевной тьме и скудости. Студенты, ваше предложение. Анджела Дэвис – символ юности. Нет, не дано понять двуличию, рассудку нищему и плоскому, что мысль – народное величие, что мысль встает, лучи расплескивая, что вновь и вновь приводит к подвигу. Марксизм невыдуманный, подлинный. Another example of freedom to Angela Davis, Svobodu Angeli Davis article. And I said that was all over newspapers in the Soviet Union, all over TV and radio, and a lot of people, Soviet people, saw through this propaganda push. And that's what created a lot of jokes on the topic of Angela Davis. We even had workers protesting, so demonstrations organized at the factories. People voluntarily got together, and they had, once again, there's a banner that says Svobodu Angeli Davis, freedom to Angela Davis. And looks like they're voting, they're raising their hands to send a letter with demand to free Angela Davis. Another article, this one from March 15, 1972. So this is when Angela Davis was released from prison. And it's titled Славная дочь американского народа, the glorious daughter of American people. And of course, there were countless posters like this one from 1971. So as you see, every Soviet person was familiar with Angela Davis and the way she looked. Here's another poster from 1972. Here's a little poem. «Их суд грозит расправиться с Анжелой за то, что родилась она не белой, за то, что невиновна, а права, борясь за негритянские права. И в том считает суд ее вина, что состоит в компартии она». So that's interesting rhyme. It says her fault. So like the court is gonna punish Angela because she wasn't born white, because she is right, not guilty, because she was fighting for Negroes' rights. And that's why we use the word негритянский. Now it's also not cool to use that word, but back in my day, that was just a normal word. Because that courts decided she is guilty just because she is a member of Communist Party of Soviet Union. And of course below there's a poster once again, Svobodu Angeli Davis, freedom to Angela Davis. Another example, this one not a poster actually, it looks like serious art by Ahmed Kitaev, Angela Davis from 1972. So as you see, the Soviet propaganda push was just huge. Even sculptures dedicated to Angela Davis were created, like this one. And as I mentioned earlier, not only Soviet government was working on the Angela Davis project. This is a poster from Eastern Germany on a similar topic. Freiheit für unsere Angela Davis. I don't know, I can't read German. And check out this artifact of Freedom to Angela Davis Drive, Svobodu Angeli Davis. So this is a pin, a badge made in the Soviet Union. Price was 30 kopecks. So that's enough to buy 2 loaves of bread. So proud, I would say what, $5-6 will be in the modern American money. And what's really amazing, you can buy this item right now on eBay, and the guy from France is asking $229. And here's the proof that image of Angela Davis remained a hot topic in the Soviet Union for years to come. This is 1979 poster, And it's quite bizarre. So there's a message: China, hands off Vietnam. For some reason, there is the image of Angela Davis and the words equality, freedom, peace. So once again, this is a Soviet poster from 1979. I was 8 years old. I think this one is my favorite. This is 1980 art depicting two guys being on the top of the world, some Soviet old man holding a flag, and Angela Davis holding Mauser broomstick handgun. That's amazing. And there's another article about Angela Davis. В тюрьме совесть Америки. The conscience of America is in jail. And of course, meetings and protests to free Angela Davis were happening not only at the Soviet factories, but also in colleges and schools. So, for example, here's the letter addressed to Committee of Defending of Peace, Комитет защиты мира, from the students of the just to school, number 39 from Petrozavodsk. So they expressed a collective protest against unlawful arrest of progressive activist of United States, Angela Davis, and we demand her immediately release. Arrest of Angela Davis is one more shameful page in the history of United States, country that claims to be having a free democracy. And look at all those hundreds of signatures. And here's another example of the protest letter. And I love this one because it was written by English language student from Kemerovo Institute, and it's in English, dated from December 2nd, 1971. And petition: for more than a year, the daughter of black people, a communist, professor of philosophy, a woman of rare intellect, a fighter for the rights of black people, Angela Davis has been languishing in prison. The long imprisonment tells badly on the health of the courageous Angela, but she does not give in. She is accused of participating in murder. This accusation is nothing but pretext for repressive measures against ideological opponents. In fact, she is being persecuted because of her devotion to the Communist Party and her political convictions. Like millions of others, she has been chosen as the target for persecution and hounding because she has raised her voice in defense of the rights of her people. We are sure that all peace-loving and democratic forces in the world condemn racial discrimination. Did they misspell discrimination? Practiced by the U.S. government and demand: stop shameful repressions, freedom to Angela Davis. Students of the English-speaking club on behalf of the English Department of Kemera Pedagogical Institute. Signed by President Vera Zhavrankova and Secretary Tatiana Konfederat. It'll be interesting to locate those girls, see what they would say now about this letter. And I wonder, you guys who are English language Nazis, I wonder if you notice any mistakes in this letter because it was written by English language students. So that'll be cool to say. I see discrimination. It looks like it was misspelled. Maybe I'm wrong. Almost forgot to show you this poster. So once again, you may recognize Angela Davis, and it's called Ruka Pravosudия, the arm of justice. And speaking of letters of protest, that was probably the most unique way that we protested with help of our government. And we were writing letters of protest and mailed them to the United States. So there's an example article called Напишите Анжеле, Write to Angela. Dear friends, for more than a year, young American communist Angela Davis is in prison. Her health is getting worse. She's losing weight and eyesight. Her recent friend's death, George Jackson, was a hard impact, but she's still, staying strong. She knows that millions of people in the United States and all over the world, they're trying to defend her. On January 22nd, Angela will be celebrating her second happy birthday in prison. So you can write your congratulations and protests if you want. And there's the address: National United Committee to Free Angela Davis, North Palo Alto Holding Facility 270. So they provided English address to mail letters of protest and happy birthday wishes to Angela in California. And you may already guessed what you're looking at. That's those letters. I don't know how many thousands of letters arrived, and many of them were written in schools. So kids come to class and the teacher tells them, okay, kids, today we're going to write a letter and happy birthday cards signed to Angela Davis. So please sit down and write what I tell you to write, and then you need to bring money to buy stamps, and we're going to mail our letters to support Angela Davis in America. And here's another example of a collective protest letter, short text and bunch of signatures of Soviet students. Looks like pioneers because they included their red pioneer tie, and you could read the message, free Angela Davis. Although D, they wrote Russian way, not English way. It's kind of cute. Okay, and just in case, this is what I'm talking about. This is the pioneer tie, pionierский галстук. When you became young pioneer in the 3rd grade, and you remain young pioneer to about 7th grade, part of your uniform is to wear this tie, and that was tied the specific way. Red silk tie called pionierский галстук. And besides writing letters of support to Angela Davis, Soviet children had to bring money to schools. They were collecting 10 kopecks from kid to send to Global Free Angela Davis Fund that was paying for her expenses for her lawyers, I guess, or who knows where those money went. But there'll be a teacher telling kids, okay, kids, tomorrow everyone should bring 10 or 20 kopecks and we'll collect this money and send to America to help Angela Davis. And back to the story of Angela Davis. So she was arrested in New York in 1970. She spent 16 months in prison. She was acquitted in 1972, and right away she was invited to visit Soviet Union as well as Eastern Germany. And here's the picture of Angela Davis with the leader of German Democratic Republic, DDR, Erich Honecker, taken in 1972. Here's another photo, I believe, was taken in 1972 or 1973 in Germany. So that was during some youth festival, and on the left is Valentina Tereshkova, first female in space, and of course Angela Davis on the right. And here we see Angela Davis on the streets of Moscow, Red Square, right next to Kremlin, and this is looks like summer of 1972. And here Angela Davis visiting Leningrad, same year, 1972, and as you see, she was getting a VIP treatment. Behind you could see black Chaika, the most luxurious limousine in the Soviet Union, and a couple of black Volga cars. And here's Angela Davis visiting cruiser Aurora, Крейсер Aurora, so that's kind of like a symbol of October Revolution of 1917. This cannon, that was the shot that sent the signal to start attacking Winter Palace, the beginning of October coup, that later was named October Revolution. Another picture from Leningrad, Angela Davis visiting Smolny. In 1917, Smolny was like a headquarters of Bolshevik party. Lenin was there, so now she's visiting that place, which also became like a symbol of October Revolution of 1917. The guy to her right, this is Comrade Romanov. A lot of people think that if Romanov would become a general secretary of Soviet Union instead of Mikhail Gorbachev, Soviet Union would never collapse. But what's so funny, a lot of people commented, the Russians commenting, that he is staring at her nipples. There's one thing that Angela Davis, a lot of comments was about, as a feminist, I guess, she refused to wear bras. So her nipples were so pronounced, and that was like became a topic of jokes. And in this case, this picture, there's always comments that look Romanov trying not to look at her nipple. And besides Moscow, Leningrad, Angela Davis also visited Uzbekistan, which is the Southern Republic of Soviet Union at that time. And this is 1974 art depicting her in Samarkand. And here's the picture from the visit in Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan pretty much was like a capital of the Soviet Union for growing cotton. And it just, a lot of people got mad at me when I posted it on the USSR subreddit, but this is actually Angela Davis being taught how to pick cotton. And of course, these guys, they had no idea. Like I understood kind of the irony of this picture because I spent 20 years in the United States and I kind of learned about all the jokes, color jokes. But yeah, this is, they took her to a local collective farm and they showed her how they grow and pick cotton. And while researching for this topic, I discovered one interesting comment. So the lady used to live in Tashkent and she was a student pioneer back in 1972. So she actually saw Angela Davis in person. and it was probably the first black person she ever seen in her life. So she said she thought Angela Davis wore a hat. Like, Soviet people were not familiar at all with this afro hairstyle. So she said, I thought she was wearing this weird looking hat. And guess what? Angela Davis hat, her hairdo, became extremely popular among Soviet ladies, and quite a few of them did their hair a la Angela Davis. Even hairstyles like this, girls called Angela Davis hairstyle. And some poor guys that happen to have curly hair would get instant nickname Angela Davis, like this guy. As I mentioned earlier, we used to say Angela Davis, and there was another interesting side effect. Girls' name Angela became super popular. It literally didn't exist before, but in the early 1970s, there were a lot of girls named Angela. I remember one in my class was Angela. And somehow this flower also has the name Angela Davis. I cannot explain why, what the history behind it, but it's just like official name of the flower, Angela Davis. And remember this photo I showed you earlier? This is 1972, Uzbekistan, Angela Davis being shown how to pick cotton. So when I posted this photo on Reddit, on the USSR subreddit, one of the mods accused me of rage baiting. As a longtime member here and a former Soviet, I expected better judgment. Your choice of words in the title appears extended to rage bait and offers no meaningful context to the photo. I encourage you to do better. And of course, there's another Visa guy. You know perfectly what this bastard doing for months. But this is the thing, as a former Soviet and a person who spent the last 20-some years in the United States, I find this picture, actually kind of funny. It just shows ignorance. They're not trolling Angela Davis, they're just showing cotton, having no idea about the whole background with slave trade and cotton fields in the United States. So I could only imagine what was going on through Angela Davis' head when she arrived and realized that they're in the middle of the cotton fields and this guy proudly shows their cottons and how they pick it. And I know it's kind of a bad example, but imagine if Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who spent 8 years in Gulag labor camps, upon his arrival to the United States, if the American government will take him to Alaska to show him how they mine gold or how they people cut trees down. That would be kind of what similar ignorance is like taking Black Panther person to cotton fields and show them how to pick cotton. But if you want to see some Soviet and post-Soviet era ignorance with a little bit of racist flavor, we actually have a chocolate cake that named Angela Davis. I'm not kidding you. It's actually Angela Davis chocolate. So as you see, the image of Angela Davis became deeply ingrained in the Soviet culture, and generally the slogan "Svobodu Angele Davis," freedom to Angela Davis, became kind of the symbol of early 1970s. Just like probably Biden era will be remembered with the slogan "Let's go Brandon." Early 1970s in Soviet Union, it's Svobodu Angele Davis. Based on your comments, I know that many of you watched and really liked the iconic post-Soviet era movies Brat and Brat 2, so Brother and Brother 2. And in the second part, there is a slogan, Svobodu Angele Davis. That's when the main character's brother is being sent to United States, and right before he leaves, he would say that slogan, Svobodu Angele Davis. Also, there was a 1999 movie filmed in Kazakhstan called Fara, and Fara translates as the car light. And it looks like it was a nickname of the main character. I haven't seen that movie yet, but anyway, in the beginning of that movie, so that's early 1970s, main character who is a kid at that time, he's shown writing a support letter to Angela Davis. And of course, I have to mention 1972 song by Vladimir Vysotsky, Жертва телевидения, the victim of television. So the hero of that song, the character, watched so much TV that he ended up going to crazy house, durdom, as we say, so the place for mentally handicapped people, that even during a fever, he was watching TV and trying to help Angela Davis. Я и в бреду все смотрел передачи, все заступался за Анджелу Дэвис. Слышу, не плачь, все в порядке в тайге. Выигран матч СССР ФРГ. By the way, I already have a video about Vladimir Vysotsky. He was a big deal back in the Soviet days, and the link will be below in the comment section. And there was Garrik Sukachev and his famous song Svobodu Angeli Davis, Svobodu, Freedom to Angela Davis. And it's basically he's using bad words, B word, and he's like, give freedom to Angela Davis, give her freedom, Suki. And of course, besides haircut and her nipples, Angela Davis was remembered by her cool-looking jeans. So we're talking early 1970s. To get a pair of Levi's in Soviet Union was nearly impossible, and she looked pretty sharp wearing those pants, so there was a lot of jokes on that topic. But before I read you and translate those silly rhymes about Angela Davis and her jeans, I need to explain something. So most Soviet people were saying not Levi's, but Levi's. So of course, Levi's rhymes with Davis. So that's all the kind of jokes rhymes went that way. Jeans Levi's, Angela Davis. So here we go. Не носите джинсы Levi's, в них ебли Анджелу Дэвис, а носите джинсы Ли, в них Анджелу не ебли. Bad words are being used in this rhyme, and it's made like a advertising. So don't wear Levi's jeans because Angela Davis was F word in them, but wear jeans Lee because Angela wasn't F wearing those. Не носите джинсы Levi's, в них ебли Анджелу Дэвис, а носите джинсы Ли, в них Анджелу не ебли. Another, I would say, fake advertising rhymes, once again using Levi's Davis. Поиметь Анджелу Дэвис вам помогут джинсы Levi's. To have sex with Angela Davis could be helped with Levi's jeans, right? Поиметь Анджелу Дэвис вам помогут джинсы Levi's. And of course, Davis rhymes with penis somewhat, right? So another rhyme, говорят, Анджела Дэвис откусила Лене пенис. So they bring a talk that Angela Davis bit off Leonid Brezhnev penis. So another silly rhyme. And of course, besides such silly rhymes, we had a lot of jokes, anecdote about Angela Davis, and I found one which works in translation. If you remember, after Bolsheviks took power in October of 1917, there was civil war in Russia, and there were two sides, just like in the United States, there was South versus North. In Russia, there was Reds, so Bolsheviks versus Whites. So there's the joke based on the Reds versus White. And one of the most famous and popular movies about the civil war in Russia was Chapayev. And Chapayev was the last name of the Soviet commander who was fighting the Whites. So after Angela Davis watched that movie, she was asked what was her favorite part. And she said, my favorite part was when Chapayev told Petька, so it's another character, listen, after we shoot all the Whites, then only then we're gonna have a good life. And of course I need to mention 1979. So this is like we're rolling into 1980s, but Angela Davis is still a big deal in Soviet Union. So in 1979 she received Lenin Peace Prize, Leninskaya Premia Mira. So she got a medal and 25,000 rubles, which about 20 annual salaries for the average Soviet worker. So a lot of money at that time. For 25,000 rubles, you could purchase 3 brand new Lada cars. So a lot of money. Well, my friends, I think this is all I can tell you about Angela Davis. Once again, she's still alive and some people in Soviet Union still remember her. I hope you enjoyed this long and maybe a little bit boring video. If you did, don't forget to like it, and we'll talk to you soon. До побачення. Goodbye.